Uau, como vocês estão animados! Nota 2 para vocês. Vou dar mais um bom dia, mais uma chance.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. Good morning. How are you doing? So you are all mostly welcome to our hub event, our 16th edition of our International Day of SafeNet. It's a great honor to be here today. This is a great event, and we are all united here for a very positive web. This session is being broadcasted live in our YouTube channel, as well as Facebook Safernet web page, and also at the website diadainternetsegura.org.br. I would like to thank you all for being here this morning and everyone who has joined us today remotely. We are going to have a number of guests, national and international guests. And due to that, we have simultaneous interpretation, English and Portuguese. For those of you who would require such a support, please benefit from that and get your headsets for the translation. This event is being carried out by CGI.br, NIC.br, together with Safernet, with sponsored by the silver sponsor Google, YouTube, TikTok, and Meta. And also we have a bronze sponsor by Vivo Telefone. I also like to highlight our institutional support by the public and just prosecutor and also the federal prosecutor for citizens support and the election court and also the Association of Police Officers, UNICEF Brazil, Safe Online, We Protect, Abranet, Alana Institute, Childhood Brazil, Febraban, and the Embassy of the UK. And we also like to thank the Global Television Broadcast and WOW. Thanks to all this joint effort, here we are. And the internet, the Safe Day for the Internet or the Safer Net Day is taking place at different regions. Everyone after a positive use of the internet. In addition to this hub session, we have other 50 activities which are being taken place all over, not just today, but throughout the whole month of February. Lots of cities and states, they are all mobilized and working together. There are several embassies conducting educational activities at the 5 regions of this country. And this is very timely and significant. I also like to thank you all once again for your participation and wish you all a very fruitful event. Let me remind you that for those who had joined us remotely, you may submit your questions via YouTube chat. And for those who are here in this premises, you just raise your hands and our receptionists will take your questions and submit them to our speakers. And as we are here talking about innovation, technology, we have also to interact and use our hashtags. There are a number of official event hashtags to, share our online involvement. We have hashtag SEED 2024 and hashtag Safe Day, Internet Safe Day. So hashtag Seed 2024 and hashtag Dia da Internet Segura. With no further ado, to officially open our event, I'd like now to hand over to the representatives of the institution that made this initiative possible. With that, Mr. Tavares, who is the president of Safernet Brasil. Mr. Demi Getsko, president of NIC.br. He's an advisor for CGI.br. Priscilla Schreiner, she is on her way. Please join us. She is a regional prosecutor and she's here representing the federal prosecutor. Mr. Lacerda, who is responsible for public policies for Google Brazil. Monica Stefan Gies, she's Meta Public Policy Advisor. And Mr. Gallo, Fernando Gallo, he is Public Policies Director for TikTok Brazil. You are all very welcome. And for our opening remarks, I will hand over to Mr. Tiago Tavares.
Muito obrigado, Natália. Muito bom dia a todos.
Thank you, Natalia. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. You are all mostly welcome to our 16th consecutive edition of Safernet. Brazil is together with another 200 countries to celebrate, and our event is much bigger. 2 days in our agenda with a very comprehensive agenda with the very relevant topics addressing our digital agenda in Brazil and in the globe. And we are glad to have 44 speakers, 23 men, 21 women from different cities and regions of the country, as well as our international guests from the UK, from the US, and France. And they had joined us to participate and share their knowledge about these urgent, difficult, and complex topics, such as in the impact of artificial intelligence in childhood, integrity of information, and to advocate for democracy, digital security, the role of adolescents, and the excessive use of screens by children and adolescents. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation, and it's a great honor to have you all here today. Simultaneously to this event, there are over 60 different activities taking place at different Brazilian cities. Some of those activities with the youngsters and their leaders. Such a capillarity is going towards diversity about digital citizenship. We have several challenges in Brazil to face. In 2023, Safernet had 71,000 new reports of online child abuse, which is a total record of new URLs which are announced since our creation in 2005. This is a peak in our whole history in the past 18 years. And the public federal ministry is dedicating their time to analyze, and also the federal public ministry also reflects it. Yesterday, a report was disclosed showing that there is an increase in the number of operations addressing sexual abuse, online sexual abuse. And the image of online sexual abuse, once that is linked to other internet human rights, they also represent another record. In 2023, we had exceeded the limit of 100,000 announcements, 101,000 new pages that were reported. 15 years ago, that number was much lower when we had a total of 89,000 URLs. And our helpline also had registered an increase of 125% in the number of calls asking for help. And there is not one single reason why that is taking place. I believe it's a combination of factors which are collaborating for such an increase. First, the proliferation of the selling of packs of nude images by adolescents. That is taking place at different schools in the state of Bahia, Rio de Janeiro, and São Paulo. Some pictures that, thanks to AI, they allow to take a person's pictures who is dressed, and then you may, take their clothes off, leading to a synthetic media representing that adolescent in an image which is very realistic, but totally nude. Another factor that will collaborate to that is the degenerative AI with a low cost and in a high scale in producing content like that. And moreover, also in 2023, there was a huge number of people who were dismissed from their jobs, and not many platforms were able to keep on moderating and monitoring content use. Different perspectives that this event hope to reach, which will take the multi-sectorial approach since its very beginning 18 years ago, will help us to reach minimum consensus to improve Brazilian citizens in the use of internet, and also to improve the digital system in Brazil. And a consensus can just be built up thanks to collaboration. And a conference like this one here today, and your presence here and tomorrow, is a clear demonstration that we are very open to a dialogue and we respect different opinions and perspectives. We hope to have two very positive and fruitful days where we are going to respect each other's opinions, and I bet this will be the best edition of SafeNet. Once again, thank you so much to all of you, and I wish you a very great day. Thank you.
Nós que agradecemos.
We are the ones who would like to thank you so much for your opening remarks. And now I'd like to hand over to Mr. Getsko, who is the president of NIC.br and advisor for the CGI.br.
Bom dia a todos. Essa é a 16ª edição do Dia da Internet Segura, e é muito bom a gente estar vendo a continuidade desse esforço. O NIC tem participado desde o começo da parte brasileira. Nós temos, inclusive, ações na área de segurança. Vocês conhecem o CERT.br, que gera cartilhas, gera uma opção de coisas. Temos atividades na área do que a gente chama de conectividade significativa, que é medição de qualidade da conectividade. Sabemos que não basta você estar conectado, precisa estar conectado com alguns parâmetros que permitam você acessar as coisas que precisa acessar. Mas, só para aproveitar aí a fala do Tiago, enquanto ele falava, e tentar fazer um contraponto, um contraponto positivo, evidentemente, nós estamos numa situação em que eu acho que há uma unanimidade na detecção do problema e na necessidade de alguma ação para isso, mas não há claramente um caminho unânime nisso aí, até porque, na minha opinião, precisaríamos primeiro definir parâmetros que não foram claramente definidos. A internet, evidentemente, gera essa possibilidade digamos, dessa angústia que o Tiago bem gerou, bem descreveu, mas ela também permite que você encontre os responsáveis por cada caso, e como ele bem falou também, tem um monte de situações em que isso já foi localizado e foi debelado. Mas o fato é o seguinte, é difícil você evitar que coisas aconteçam num ambiente tão amplo e tão humano e tão diversificado como é o nosso, as coisas vão acontecer. O jeito das coisas acontecerem menos, talvez o caminho seja a educação, talvez o caminho seja a expansão da cultura computacional adequada, e esse é o trabalho que a gente tem feito talvez com livrinhos e com manuais e com boas práticas. Mas é importante certamente tratar isso com uma estratificação que eu acho que é fundamental. Falta uma taxonomia na área, falta uma nomenclatura adequada. Bom, vou dar um exemplo bobo, porque estava discutindo aí a semana passada sobre fragmentação na internet com o pessoal do ICANN, que vai discutir isso na reunião de Costa Rica não, Porto Rico. E quando você fala fragmentação da internet, o que você quer dizer por internet? Né? Quer dizer, essa palavra, quando você fala regulação da internet, o que significa regulação da internet? O que é internet? A internet para na camada de protocolos, a camada vai para a camada de aplicações, vai para a camada de nichos específicos ou para em algum lugar. Quer dizer, precisamos tomar muito cuidado com a nomenclatura que usamos, porque quando a gente fala regular a internet, ninguém imagina que alguém vai trocar o TCP/IP, ou vai trocar o HTTP, ou dizer que o HTTPS não é bom, etc. E tal. E a fragmentação também, o que é o conceito de fragmentação, vai depender da terminologia que você adotar para cada componente do sistema. Então a gente corre um risco importante, que devia ser evitado ao máximo, que é usar um linguajar, digamos, não claramente definido. Bom, vou dar um outro exemplo, que evidentemente tem uma opção de gente que pode falar muito melhor que isso, mas não há uma categoria que se chame as plataformas. Existem N plataformas diferentes com ações diferentes. E, certamente a telefonia é uma plataforma, a gente usa a telefonia há muito tempo e você não vai querer que a telefonia impeça que alguém ligue para mim e me xingue. Isso não é uma ação da telefonia, isso é uma ação entre privados. Ela, na verdade, ela é vetada a entrar no meio da conversa e impedir que alguém me xingue pelo telefone. Esse é um assunto entre eu e o meu interlocutor. É uma plataforma, isso é hoje digital e basicamente na internet. O velho correio também é uma plataforma e certamente eu não quero que o carteiro só me entregue as cartas que não falam mentiras em relação a mim ou as cartas que só me tratam bem, não tem muito sentido. Agora, isso é diferente de uma praça pública onde eu ponho um pôster que pode estar ofendendo alguém e todo mundo está vendo aquilo. Em suma, você tem que tratar os diferentes de forma diferente.
You have to treat the different differently. Otherwise, you'll never get to consensus. So whatever is general today on the internet generates a risk to fundamental rights, as Tiago very well put it, and for you to throw the baby together with the bathwater. So we have to define what we are saying clearly to have actions that will yield some kind of result. We are united. We know it is a problem to be addressed. It is addressed, in the long term with education and culture. But, it's very hard just to say we would like nothing of it to happen. How to do that is a lot more complex. And I hope we enjoy, today and tomorrow in our discussions. And I hope you have a wonderful seminar. Thank you, Benny, for your remarks. And now I'm going to turn the floor to Priscila Costa Schreiner, federal prosecutor. Okay, this is my first interactions. Good morning, everyone. My colleagues, Tiago, on behalf, I thank Safernet and the invite. 16 years of Safe Internet Day, and 16 years that the Public Prosecutor Office has the satisfaction of being part of it. We bring our knowledge to share with you, and I would like to start by telling you that the Federal Prosecutor's Office has been engaged not only in fighting cybercrime, but also in preventing cybercrime. And why do I say that? Because, as we well know, good citizenship is not something that can be considered the foundation of, life without talking about the digital environment. We do not only have a physical environment in the world today, we also have a virtual world. So today, in the legal area, our lawsuits are all digits. Evidence, that is collected is practically all digital. So we can no longer uh, forget the digital world. And the Federal Prosecutor's Office has a criminal area, but also has an area for the defense of human rights and good citizenship. And in our cyber area, we have a national group that is called Support Group Against Cybercrimes. And what is it? It is a group that encompasses federal and state prosecutors and coordinates activities throughout Brazil in cooperation with criminal actions from other members of the Public Prosecutor's Office, but also to develop prevention activities, courses, training, and even follow the rules that are being passed and that refer to cyber crimes, child porn, hatred, crimes that happen in the world of the internet. And this group develops projects also in digital education. And I would like to talk about a project that was developed a few years ago, very successfully, and was resumed now. It is a project in partnership with Safernet, and it was a project that would train educators and people that interacted with students and teachers. Multipliers of activities, of good practices within the world of internet. So SaferNet, now Juliana Cunha is going to take over, but at the time it was Rodrigo Negi, together with Juliana, Rodrigo forming prevention director. We would hold meetings and workshop with educators in general, and we would use a language to train them to be able to deal as good as possible, as well as possible, with the traps and challenges of the internet, so that they could make students aware of the web and its dangers. And the focus at the time was to use sexual crimes practiced against children and adolescents on the web. This year, we are going to resume the project, but we are going to have a different focus. In addition to crimes against children and adolescents on the web, we are also going to talk about hatred manifestations. This is one of the topics we are going to focus on. And another project to be developed by the same group is to raise awareness and the importance of voting. So, integrity of information, fighting misinformation, making people aware of the importance of casting their vote in the ballot. So, we are calling this project, the vote right. And I would like now to read you some numbers in the criminal portion of our group. Remember that in addition to our national group, we have 2 regional groups, and throughout Brazil, we have prosecutors fighting cybercrime. But in Rio and São Paulo, we have specific groups with technical areas that help us a lot with evidence. In São Paulo, Safernet has a channel. It was an agreement signed that is a repository of reports that are received on Safernet. The reports are addressed by the groups and directed to the regional offices. And I'm going to read you some numbers. They don't look as big, but reports are sometimes repeated. And sometimes we have different investigation procedures that later will generate criminal processes, and then we are going to fight for conviction in the cases that is the right thing to do based on evidence. So in child porn, we had 501 investigations, racism 33, crimes against life 78, xenophoby 25, nazism 60, religion tolerance 5, LGBT phobia 16, violence against women 19, and trafficking of people 1. So these are reports that are received on Safernet or at the public prosecutor office, then filtered. Whatever is repeated, we are going to put together, and then we are going to take action. I'm sorry I took so long, but I would like to close just to say that I'm very happy to work on the prevention of crimes. This is my focus, prevention of cyber crimes and good citizenship. So the well-being of the web, so the Safe Internet Day is a joy for me. Thank you very much. Thank you, Priscila. And now Marcelo Lacerda, Director of International Relations and Public Policies at Google Brazil. Okay. I have my cheat sheet here. And as Tiago and Penny, so good morning every day, Tiago, panel members. It is very nice to be here once again, to be part of such important debate. And as you said, Tiago, a multi-sector place, the academia, the public sector, the private sector, to discuss such an important topic as internet safety, especially that of children and adolescents, because in the end of the day, we know that they are growing in an increasingly digital world. And that's why Google is committed to create products that respect, empower, and protect these children and adolescents, respecting the phase of development and age of each one of them. We also work to offer families tools that will enable them to make decisions. How can they better relate to technology? And finally, we implement projects, programs, and policies that aim at increasing safety of these children and adolescents on the internet. I'm going to give you some examples of initiatives that we have. The first is that recently we expanded the Family Link actions to the YouTube. Family Link, if you don't know, is a parental control tool. Another initiative is a policy of non-personalization of advertising for children and adolescents. And finally, a feature that we have on search which is blurring images of adult content and/or graphic violence content to children and adolescents. This is already a standard for whoever the users are. And we agree with mental health specialists that tech companies do have a role to create a better experience on the internet for children, adolescents, but as to everyone as well. And in this sense, in the end of last year, we launched a framework of public policies for the protection of children and adolescents on the web. What's that? 11 principles that we understand may guide the discussion on public policies to make the internet a better, safer experience for children and adolescents. Because we do believe that public policies that are well structured can be an effective mechanism for us to create a safer, richer environment for our children and adolescents. Our idea with the framework, and I'm not going to go through each one of the lines because we don't have the time, but you are going to see some of these principles along the 2 days of the discussion. But the idea of the framework is to contribute with the experience gained along the year with products, policies, and tools for the discussion on public policies and to share in multi-sector environments with the civil society, public sector, and the academia, this experience, so that we can move forward on a continuous debate. This is the 16th edition, the 16th conference on public policies that can protect children and adolescents on the web. Again, the discussion is ongoing, it is complex, but it is also very important. And we are very confident that if we work like this together, as we are here today, tomorrow, and the remainder of the year, because it is ongoing, so it's not just 2 days only that we are going to be discussing these actions, but we can really commit to creating a better, safer digital environment for children and adolescents. So congratulations on the initiative, Safernet, NIC, CGI, and let's us all have an excellent 2 days of discussion. Thank you. Thank you, Marcelo. And now, Mônica Stefan Guise, Director of Public Policies for Meta. Mônica? Hi. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Tiago, my dear friend, correct me if I'm wrong. 18 years of Safernet, 16 of the Internet Safe Day, and this year, 2024, I'm going to turn 8 years in Meta. I joined the company when it was called Facebook. And I'm going to share with you that way back when, 8 years ago, when I left a full teaching position at the law school of Getúlio Vargas to take this position in the public policies group of Facebook, I thought I was going to stay for a year, perhaps 2 tops. I saw a change in career as an opportunity to learn. Of being part of what was until then just an object of my study as a professor and as a researcher. And throughout my period with the company, I had the opportunity of working in fantastic projects and getting to know people and initiatives even more amazing. And that year, 2-year tops turned into 8, and I hope I can still stay for a few years ahead, supporting institutions such as Safernet and the work you do, Tiago. I had the opportunity of learning so much with you, with the work developed by Safernet And I would like to use Priscilla's presence here to say that it was by coming close to the public prosecutor's office through Safernet that I found the most fantastic group of women I ever known. Of course, not only women work there, but the group of women inside the public prosecutor's office really inspired me to continue to support SaferNet and really advocate in the company for us to work closer together. As Demi said, what happens in the offline world also happens on the web. But the web is also a space where the production of evidence is so important. And it is the production of evidence that enables groups like you get to these criminals that are really engaging in crimes such as sexual exploitation of children and adolescents and other horrible things. So I look back 8 years and I saw how much we have advanced within the company with better cooperation, more data sharing. We still have a long way to go. We have much to improve, but I am very proud of how much we've come so far and the work we can do together with our colleagues in the industry, with the public sector, and civil society organizations like SaferNet. Once again, I would like to reiterate our commitment with safety on our platforms and support to SaferNet, Tiago, because the work you do is not only a reference in Brazil, but it is for the whole of the world. So, from the bottom of my heart, very transparently, I'm very grateful for how much I learned, our partnership, and the wonderful work, tireless work that Jen takes a token in several moments. But if it weren't for the work you develop, I'm sure we would be in a much worse place that we are today, that we can think of. So I thank you. Thank you very much for the opportunity, for how much I learned. And I hope we can have another 18 years of SaferNet. And I wish you all an excellent seminar and 2 days that are very profitable for everyone.
Thank you, Monica. And next, Mr. Gallo, who is Director for Public Policies TikTok, Brazil. Good morning, everyone. I also would like to congratulate Safernet, NIC.br, and CGI.br. 16 years. I recall when Tiago told me that, we now have 2 days event. This event is much larger than a few years ago with great impact. I'm so honored to be here. And I also would like to congratulate our participants also who joined us remotely. To start with, I would like to pay an honor to those who work to keep SaferNet. I understand we have ongoing challenges which we will go in depth throughout the next 2 days. And let's be honest, once this event started many years ago, our internet was totally different than the one we have today. Different tools, different setups, governments with different collaboration tools, partnerships with the civil society, which were not possible before, and they are available now. So much has been improved in the past years, not just abroad, but over here as well. So it's very important to pay an honor to everyone who is who is working really hard to keep and guarantee a safe net. The importance of a multi-stakeholder approach. And Tiago, he was very timely in his talk when he said that in the past 16 years, we always try to have this multi-stakeholder approach, but yet we have to rescue this broader approach, including multi-stakeholder discussion as part the multi-stakeholder topic as part of the discussion. With that, some solutions were reached to guarantee the importance to rescue that multi-stakeholder oriented approach in Brazil. And at TikTok, we try to be as humble as possible to keep our platform as safe as possible. I'll be present at the 2 p.m. panel as well, where I'm gonna go into details about that. But just, to share a little bit of our tasks, 5.5 million videos which were removed from our platform just in this country as they were violating our features. Most of them, they were detected by ourselves. We removed ourselves. We did not even needed to get any announcements about that. In addition, we had developed pioneer tools for parental control, design safety tools for adolescents. TikTok was the first platform to allow specific setups and tools for specific age ranges, 13 to 17 and 17 to on. We were the first platform to make available specific numbers per category for number of groups that were violated. And just as an appetizer, we have a live campaign with several institutions, including Safernet. They are all producing content at TikTok. And the topics, they range from personal cybersecurity, cyberbullying, AI, hashtag to a safe net. So this is another hashtag that you can also follow, which is the main hashtag behind our major campaign. Having said that, once again, thank you so much for the invitation. We, on behalf of TikTok, we are very proud and honored to be here participating in this session. Thank you. We are the ones who would like to thank you, Fernando. Mr. Getsuko, I have just a brief comment. Well, some years and dates were mentioned here. We are celebrating 10 years of the global net. That was a international multi-stakeholder and sectorial meeting where we set the first document setting our 10 principles, and we hope to organize an event by the end of April to celebrate such an important achievement as we are celebrating 10 years of our civil landmark. And I hope that you will all be able to participate and also to collaborate to our endeavor. So this was our opening session. And for those of you who joined us a little bit later, let me advise you to join our hashtags, hashtag 20, SID 2024 and hashtag Dia da Internet Segura. You may please find your seats so we can now proceed to the first talk of the day.
Que teremos ao final. Isso é para dar sorte. Lembrando que ao final
Let me remind you that by the end of each talk, we are going to open for a Q&A session. Our participants who are at the premises, just raise your hands in case you'd like to ask a question, and our receptionist will take your questions. And if you are following us remotely, send your questions by the chat. Our next talk will be in English with simultaneous interpretation. If you had just joined us here, please get your headset outside with the receptionists. You'll be able to get the necessary device to benefit from the translation.
E para isso, eu gostaria de convidar ao palco o diretor.
And for that, I would like to invite Executive Director for the Global Alliance. So the Executive Director for the We Protect Global Alliance, Ian Drennan, he has been a leader for the international response to the UK addressing childhood abuse and how to react to this type of violence and the Lanzarote protection against sexual exploitation and sexual abuse, child safety and generative AI. So a big round of applause to Ian Drennan. You are mostly welcome here today. I wish you all a great talk.
Bom dia a todos e todas. Muito obrigado aos meus anfitriões. É uma honra.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much to my hosts. It's a great honor to be here addressing to you at the Safernet Day. I am Ian Drennan, Executive Director for We Protect Global Alliance. That's it for now. This is my first visit in Brazil, one of the main members of our alliance against online children's abuse. Now let me switch to it.
I want to also thank the translators. They do an incredible job in ensuring that we can have this dialogue together. So really appreciate what they're doing. It is, as I said, an absolute honor to be here today. And as part of Safer Internet Day, my daughters, while I was traveling, apparently were talking to each other in the car on the way back from school. And the youngest one said to the older, I think Daddy will do something for Safer Internet Day at work, don't you? And that just shows, I think, this is an international day. This is something where events are happening all around the world. And it's a real pleasure to be here to mark this day with you all today. So We Protect Global Alliance works for a digital world designed to protect children from sexual exploitation and abuse, for them to enjoy all the benefits and the opportunities that the internet can offer. And we heard some of the amazing work in the last session that's already happening in Brazil. So what I'm going to do now is talk to you about the scale and nature of the threat from child sexual abuse online and some of the responses and actions that we think need to happen. So we're going to be looking at the threat, victims and survivors and perpetrators. We're going to look at how well we're responding on a global level. And we're going to look at some urgent calls to action, finishing with some emerging issues that are right up to date. So even the hearings in US Congress for tech CEOs. In Brazil, we know that 92% of 9 to 17-year-olds are using the internet. But this access often lacks quality. There's no training or support before children are able to get online. So therefore, we need a concerted effort together to enable positive experiences to happen. So that's more than just removing harm. That's enabling children to really take advantage, to have joyful experiences online. And that's what Safer Internet Day is all about. So we do a global threat assessment roughly every 2 years. In 2023, we published our fourth, which was our most comprehensive and detailed to date. It showed increased complexity and growth in the harm, and it called that we need to shift towards prevention. We need to deploy more safety by design and public health focused approaches. And this is the only viable route to end the problem of child sexual abuse online. And all of these resources, so our threat assessments going back to 2018, are all available in Portuguese in our website, weprotect.org. So just a quick note about how we did it. So we really brought together a range of reporting from our members and making a concerted effort to have more reporting from the global south. So this is not just a North American problem or a European problem. This is a problem for the entire world. And I wanted to note as well, we had an expert committee that we put together with representatives from across our alliance to endorse and cross-check our findings. We also commissioned new sources of evidence. So we worked with the United Nations Special Representative on Violence Against Children on the hashtag #MyVoiceMySafety poll of children, hearing their voices. And we also did an economist impact survey of parents and guardians' perceptions of online sexual abuse in 6 countries, including Brazil. We thought it was incredibly important to center the perspectives of children. So the first thing you see when you open the Global Threat Assessment is a view from children themselves about what they think needs to be done. It's really important for us that our response is child-centered, that we listen to how children are using the internet, how they are experiencing digital harms, and what they think we should do to respond. So the scale and nature of the threat. Fundamentally, child sexual exploitation and abuse is escalating globally in scale. Between 2019 and 2022, the US National Center for Missing and Exploited Children analyzed over 32 million reports, which represents an 87% increase on the number they processed in 2019. Tiago said they had seen a record number of reports here in Brazil with Safernet. We're using a number of different data sources, and all of them are pointing to a dramatic global increase in scale over the past few years. And it's important to remember also that a lot of harm is not going to be reported. We know this is a crime where children may not report for many years, or they may not report at all. Secondly, the forms of child sexual abuse that we know about have intensified and evolved. Offenders are responding to disruptions. They're responding to new forms of technology. I want to particularly highlight the 7,200% increase in financial sexual extortion and coercion over 2021-2022. This is, to put that in context, in the US, that's a growth from 139 reports in 2021 to 10,000 reports. And this is where children, particularly adolescent boys, are being targeted by financially motivated criminals who trick them into providing intimate images of themselves and then use that as a source of blackmail. And the consequences of this can be incredibly severe. Tragically, we've seen a number of adolescents take their own lives as a result of this crime. We've seen evidence that boys find the risk of engaging a female online as a lower risk, and therefore they are perhaps being targeted for that vulnerability, underlying we need to do more research. I also want to highlight the 45-minute average time that it takes to lock a child into a grooming conversation, leading them into an abusive situation. So that's 45 minutes on average on gaming platforms, but it can take as little as 19 seconds. That's 7 questions, and you can have a child in a dangerous situation. But we're also seeing new abuse trends, and that goes back to the title of this presentation, In a World of Generative AI. And we're seeing all of these new forms of technology interacting together. They're not operating separately. We're seeing them interacting. So that financial sexual extortion, imagine that in the context of AI, where the criminal doesn't need to trick someone into providing an intimate image. They can just create a synthetic image. So this crime can now be undertaken on an industrial scale, as criminals can access easily available generative AI technology. We're seeing extended reality growing. And how is that going to interact with AI? We're also seeing sexualized legal content, which poses a lot of problems to our response, because this is material that may not be illegal, but is being used for sexual purposes. So for example, children in swimwear, but this is being curated by offenders. So how do we see this as a risk factor? How do we incorporate that into our policy response? We're starting to understand better the factors that affect a child's exposure to online sexual harm. And we've got some of the categories there. But we think there are children in marginalized groups who are particularly vulnerable. I want to highlight children who identify as LGBTQ+, who are twice as likely to stay in contact with someone online who made them feel uncomfortable. Disability, children who are deaf are 3 times more likely to be abused online. Children identifying as belonging to an ethnic or racial minority experiencing more online sexual harms on average. And it's really important we handle this sensitively so that groups don't become even more marginalized by feeling targeted in the response. So for example, in Australia, where there's a risk of targeting or making Indigenous communities feel even more vulnerable and marginalized. There is a chasm between what children see as the risk and how harm actually manifests. So that stereotype of stranger danger, that it's the criminal is someone on a laptop who's unknown to the child. That's not what the data shows us. In 60% of cases, the abuse is perpetrated by someone known to the child. That could be a peer. That could be someone in the circle of trust. That could be a relative or even a parent. So we need to ensure that our response is tailored to what we actually know about the threat, and we're following the data. Looking now at the response. The response, as it will come as no surprise, is not adequately funded. There's a lot of weight being placed on civil society. There's a lot of weight being placed actually on parents themselves, on children, and it shouldn't be their sole responsibility. When we did our survey of parents and guardians, 2/3 of parents felt that it was their responsibility. It was down to them to protect their children online. And we know how challenging that can be. So we need a concerted effort from government, from the private sector, and supported by civil society, and empowering children and parents and guardians. But it shouldn't be down to the families and the child alone. We're seeing that funding gap both at government level and at industry level. So we're seeing underinvestment in child sexual abuse material. It's perhaps seen as a drain on resources for companies, not necessarily a priority. There's a need for local knowledge and language skills. So this is a problem that doesn't just happen in English. For example, in Portuguese, it's the third largest language that we've identified. There's 29% growth in child sexual abuse related material in Portuguese over the past year. We need to step up our response. We cannot be leaving it solely to civil society. And I note the Brazilian commitment of a new Department of Digital Rights in the Ministry of Justice and Public Security. I'm very much looking forward to hearing from the State Secretary on that and plans later during the event. So legislation is incredibly important. It can boost our response, but it should not be seen as a silver bullet, as something that's going to resolve the whole problem. Legislation needs to be there as a baseline, but we are never going to end up with globally aligned legislation. There will always be a place for voluntary action. And also, legislation and regulation should be seen as a baseline. It shouldn't be seen as a limit. We should be expecting companies, we should be expecting governments to do more, to go beyond. We also need consistent terminology so that we're speaking to each other and we all understand what we're talking about when we deal with this global crime. So just to underline the importance of voluntary collaboration, that's really what we exist to do as a network. We promote regulation and legislation, yes, but there's a whole range of other activity that we can do to ensure that there is a more effective global response, that we're able to deal with a situation where the victim, the perpetrator, the platform they're using are all in different countries. So I just want to highlight, as an example, with the Tech Coalition, they've got an initiative called Lantern, which is ensuring that if a victim is being moved from one platform to another, that companies can follow that they're sharing information, so that we're staying one step ahead from the offender. Because the offender they want to start where the child is, but they want to get them onto an encrypted platform. So to identify where that movement is happening is really important. So our threat assessment came out with some urgent calls to action. We think it's really important we don't just set up a problem and then leave it, but we talk about what we can do to respond. Firstly, centering children's rights and perspectives. That's got to be at the root of our design. We can't be sitting there as adults, as digital immigrants, and saying, this is what we think you need to do. Children need to be part of the process. We need to be talking to them. That is the best advice I was ever given on what do parents need to do. Talk to your child so that their online world is not something separate and divided. We need to be taking that into our response and really empowering children, making it easier for them to talk, to increase levels of trust with teachers, with parents, with law enforcement. Otherwise, I think we risk having an irrelevant and ineffective response. Secondly, globally aligned legislation, so that we are talking to each other, so that governments are aligned in terms of what they are responding, so that cross-border operations are facilitated, so that information flows are working, so that there are systems and processes in place for collaboration. And there are lots of materials and guidance out there to enable legislation to be developed in an aligned way. So making it principles based, to making it technology neutral, so that we don't have to keep changing as technology evolves, because we know that the development of technology is moving so much faster than the legislative timetable. Thirdly, to invest more in public health approaches, prioritizing prevention. I call this flipping the pyramid, turning the pyramid upside down. At the moment, most of the resources are going into dealing with harm that has already happened, identifying child sexual abuse material, removing it. But by that stage, the crime has already happened. We need to be investing more in root causes, in prevention. And that is challenging, but it is on us as civil society to make a powerful case for that. It makes financial sense, it makes operational sense, it makes moral sense to do so. And just finally, to close, to look at some of the most recent issues that have been in the headlines. Virtual reality, extended reality. In the UK, police were investigating the rape in the metaverse of a girl being attacked in a virtual reality room. And I think it's really important to note the gender aspect of some of these crimes. Are virtual extended reality spaces safe places for women and girls? We cannot look at this in isolation. So we talk a lot with our friends and colleagues working in gender-based violence. But we need to ensure that the legislation is ready for these kind of crimes. We need to understand the traumas that are undergoing. We published a report last year looking at the growth of virtual reality, looking at synthetic images being developed to create sexualized representations of children. So deep fakes, photorealistic imagery. This report is available on our website. It's in partnership with the University of Manchester in the UK. And if you're ever curious as to, what is the knowledge I need to know on this, it's a really good baseline assessment, a primer on this emerging harm. And finally, bringing it right up to date, last week, we had the CEOs of many of the companies represented today, all of them, in fact, being cross-examined by US senators. And I think it's really important that while there were some really promising initiatives announced ahead of that hearing, this needs to be business as usual. We cannot... it's not sustainable to be responding to cross-examination by the legislature. This needs to be routine business, thinking about the risks for companies. It was really a powerful example when Roblox, which of course is focused on children, when they went public, when they filed to go public in 2021, they highlighted child sexual abuse as one of their key risks for them as a company. And I think that's understanding of risk and the benefits for the private sector in taking action and designing these solutions is incredibly important. So this is a preventable problem. This is something we've done before. With road safety, with seat belts, with smoking. We know that there is a way to prevent this problem. And I would encourage you, if you're not a member of our alliance, please join, please speak to me or my colleague Stephanie Quintão, who speaks Portuguese much better than I do, and get involved. There are lots of ways to participate and collaborate and work together as a global community. This is a serious problem. It's a global problem. It's a complex problem. We need to approach it with humility, but we also need to approach it with hope. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ian, for the great presentation. Please come back to here. We will have a Q&A, please. Mr. Ian? Oh, no problem. Stay here with us, please. Interessante que o senhor Ian, ele
It's
só
interesting because Ian, in the end of the day, emphasized what we said in the opening session, talking about prevention and how important it is. So, going along the same lines, we now have a panel talking about global initiatives to fight sexual violence online against children and adolescents. So now we are going to have a discussion panel with Brazilian and international speakers, and then a Q&A session. And for that, I would like to invite to the floor Natalie Schuff from Safe Online's Industries and Data Lead. Please, Natalie. Also to the floor, I'd like to call Michael Schiff, representative of the In Hope Association. Welcome, Michael. Remotely, we'll also have with us Estela Aranha, Secretary of Digital Rights of the Ministry of Justice and Public Safety. Estela is with us online. Can you hear us okay, Estela? Yep. Yeah, loud and clear. Great, we can hear you as well, and we can see you now, Estela. And also with us remotely, Luisa Teixeira from UNICEF Brazil. Luisa, welcome. Good morning, everyone. And our moderator for this panel is going to be Tiago Tavares, founder and CEO of Safernet Brasil, and the coordinator of our conference. A hand to the panel. Just as a reminder, questions from the audience or remotely can be sent on the chat box. And if you're here, you can also raise your hands. We have our fantastic receptionists that will take your questions and bring them to Tiago, okay? Tiago, you have the floor. Where's the mic? Hey, good morning.
First of all, I would like to thank you so much for making this trip, the long trip to Brazil. For all of you, it's the first time in Brazil, and I hope you can come back more often. And thank you so much, Ian, for your brilliant opening speech. It was really great on how you are working in a multi-stakeholder environment, in a multi-stakeholder fashion to address those really complex issues. And now I will switch to Portuguese because I would like to invite Natalie. And Natalie, ela tem, além de ter trabalho brilhante.
And Natalie, besides having wonderful work on Safe Online that you're going to get to know now, speaks beautiful Portuguese. She has a lovely accent. She has a carioca accent. So, Natalie, you have to learn now.
Quer trocar?
Muito obrigada. É privilégio estar aqui com vocês hoje.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. I first would like to thank you all that are here with us virtually or in presence, and Safernet for organizing the event and inviting me to talk about Safe Online. Our work is multi-sectorial. I've heard a lot about that, and I think it is important, but it's also a collaboration globally. So I'd like to share a bit more about that. I'm Natalie Schupp. As Thiago mentioned, I'm American, but I speak Portuguese a little, so I'll try to have the presentation in Portuguese. But I apologize, as you know, and if I have to, I'll turn into English. But I'm responsible for the industry and data in Safernet, that is collaboration with the industry and between the industry and other players, and also with investigation, technology, and innovation data. And so I'd like to share with you my presentation, starting. Let me see how I'm going to do this. I want to first start talking a bit about Safernet. And for those of you who don't know it, but also talk about the work and model and how we are located into this ecosystem. We are the only fund dedicated to fighting and investing against sexual exploitation in the world. Children, we have invested 100 million in 85 countries in the world. And this is just an overview of the projects and organizations from different sectors, geographies, and perspectives. That is very important for us to understand the impact, solutions, and innovations in the areas. We are trying to work with the whole ecosystem. And part of the work is to support the organizations in which we invest through lines of thought and alignment with strategies, as Ian mentioned. We work together. They are a very important partner to us. So, as he said, we try to help and translate these actions into practice.
And to go a little bit more into details about our perspective as to the ecosystem, we invested differently in the past years. We had some regional assessments more specific to different topics and also global calls. And there are three main areas of approach as part of our ecosystem, which are first, systems. They are key, not just to our work, but to everything else. Infrastructure is key as well as legislation. All these components, they are crucial as a building block to our research. Second, we have to undergo not just a local approach, but also it's important to have a global perspective because this is a global issue. There are no frontiers. It's an issue which takes all continents. So it's not just a national problem. And Ian already has illustrated priorly addressing the financial extortion. Even the United States, which is able to invest more in that issue, the law enforcement could not follow each one of the cases so effectively because offenders did not have any, I mean, the law enforcement could not be able to keep following the offenders because there were not enough resources or investments. So we are not just reacting to current threats, but also future ones, especially because we are dealing with emergent technology, which evolves and develops so fast, and we are not able to mitigate all attempts that those offenders may attack us. So we have to be more proactive, we have to think about preventive measures and to consider some actions that may be able to prevent offenders attack. In our centers, we try to promote investigation projects and surveys where we try to generate evidences and to collect data. This panel and other speakers who came before me have already addressed a number of evidences that are being generated, but yet we have to listen to children's perspective to understand what is the real data information and also to understand possible interventions and solutions. Right now, our ecosystem has not fully assessed all possible technologies, interventions, projects, how to compare the most effective ones, which technical intervention to be applied within which context. The data evidence is key and is intertwined to technology, which is our last approach, where we design the technology to promote victims identification, to mitigate exposition to violent content, protecting our ecosystem players, as well as accessibility. We want to allow access and inclusion to different technologies to all stakeholders. Anytime we invest on tech solutions, we have not just to consider cost, but also how to enable people, how to allow maintenance, interoperability. And anytime we are considering or investing on a solution, we have to see that from a greater perspective. How can we allow better use and higher collaboration among the system as a whole, as interoperability is crucial. So these three areas, they try to defeat online sexual exploitation and abuse. However, working together to several partner organizations and institutions, we understand that although this is a key issue to our tasks, that is still compared to other violence actions that take place in the digital ecosystem. Risks in the digital era, fine, but how can we align that to other fields of expertise that are also working with other relevant fields of actions that could allow synergy towards other ecosystems? The idea then is to work jointly and to share any new information that we reach in our ecosystem and share that with other communities and learn also from their own experiences to avoid repeating the same mistakes. We see several statistics addressing violence to the female gender. There are a number of initiatives, collaborative initiatives that take place not just within our own ecosystem, but some additional ones that can talk one to another, despite some barriers that they may impose to our advocacy or to our public service. We also have to open a dialogue to all communities where we'll be able to reach solutions that can be deployed to those communities. There might be those who wouldn't like to promote a certain public policy that can be deleterious to another group of people. And our goal mainly is to take that topic to a global discussion. I was going into some additional details, but there is no need for that because Ian has already shared a number of evidences. There is a study on a national level where Safernet has invested together with UNICEF and other players. This is a national experience addressing this problem that has been conducted with 13,000 children at 13 different countries, and they are going to add another 14 countries, including Brazil. Evidences, they are already being translated to advocacy to our partners, by our partners, and by the institutions that we work with. I just would like to highlight once again what I believe it is of great importance. We have to hear children's voice. We have to listen what they have to tell us. And our focus is also on supporting projects that will follow methodologies like the ones that we advocated for. Languages, Mr. Demi has addressed the importance of language nomenclature and the importance of that language understanding to children who are abused. Because if we use a language of shame, for instance, can be very powerful in setting a barrier to those who are suffering that negative experience. So let's think about that digital language. All digital rights, they have to be thought upon anytime we are dealing with digital space and considering not only risks and a potential abuse, but also the positive part of internet use. I mean, all these different topics, they are part of our work as well as at other organizations who are also dealing with the same topic. This is an urgent topic, I agree, and much has been done and said in the public policies where they have different momentums on a global level, as well as national level. Many organizations which we support, they are translating that to the public policy on a national level. On a national level, there are some action plans, and we believe that this understanding and translation is key. We also like to highlight the progress that some of our organizations that we work with are doing, and we are trying to help public policies in over 10 organizations, and our grantees, they are creating over 10 innovative tech solutions to face the problem. They also support different hotlines at different countries, a total of 40 actually. And that is a way to to help us to identify offenders, victims, and several preventive areas and education.
E também, eu vou pular para o final, porque eu sei que eu estou chegando no.
Well, my time is almost up, so I'm going to skip few slides.
Vou deixar aqui de enfocar no futuro, em que a gente quer ver para esse ano, e que a gente está vendo para seguir na frente com tudo isso e aprender.
What are the next steps? Well, keep on learning with our active organizations.
Política, esse compromisso político que está acontecendo.
Such a political involvement is very important, although there is a disparity among countries because they are at different levels of development. But in a way, one can learn from another, especially if you are a beginner in that journey in the public policy. You may learn from those who are in a much later stage. There are technologies such as encryption, verification, AI, immersive environments. Let's not forget about them. Let's include them in our debate. And not just react to a new trend or a new threat, but how can we co-create new frameworks and models that can be more proactive and somehow adapt to them, as well as legislations. We have much progress. We see some sort of progress there, but yet how can we balance all human and digital rights? And there is a balance that is quite subtle, but we have to, address the dialogue from different perspectives with different stakeholders so we can reach a compromise instead of being one against the other. Also, this collaborative action to work about this, we have to have a voice inclusion. Countries in the Global South who are survivors, that has been highlighted, but I like to emphasize it. We also get resources, philanthropic resources, charities, and in our last call, the global request we had $400 million for our projects. But actually we had just 20 and the total was 400,000, and there was just one resource fund for that goal. So with our current fund is not equivalent to our reality. So we have to work jointly. This requires additional effort. And to close, we had just closed our call, but there will be a new one by next March or April. And how can we better elaborate our grantees and to help them? So if you are interested at all, don't refrain from contacting us. Thank you.
Muito obrigada, Nathalie. Nathalie tem o português melhor que o meu.
Thank you, Nathalie. You have a wonderful Portuguese. And next, I would like to hand over to Michael Schiff. He is a member of the association. You have the floor.
Obrigada. Good morning. I'm Michael Schiff. I worked for 35 years with people who were downloading child sexual abuse material who were sexually abusing children. So on Safer Internet Day, I think it's really important to realize where the dangers come from, because without the people I've worked with, there would be no danger. I work for InHope currently. I'm contracted to InHope. InHope is an organization that coordinates the activities of hotlines across the world. Every country needs a hotline to enable its citizens to report indecent content. We must engage the public in public protection. And it's important that every state, and Brazil leads South America in this respect, every country needs a hotline to report indecent content so that it can be removed, and also provide some comfort to children who are the survivors of those activities. It's very traumatic for children and adults to realize that material which presents them being sexually abused and exploited is constantly circulated and viewed by new people. And it is of great comfort to those children and adults to realize that people are doing something about removing it. I want really to talk about what the environment of the digital age as it affects viewers of child sexual abuse material and people who are sexually abusing children. And we start by thinking about crime. All crime occurs when people's inhibitions about it are reduced. Most people don't commit crime because they feel it's wrong, or they feel it's bad, or they feel that they might be caught. Failing that, they are impeded, they are prevented from committing crime because there's a police officer present, or because a house has locks on, or because the internet has systems that prevent exploitation. Where those impediments are removed and where opportunities are provided, crime increases. And where inhibitions are removed and disinhibition increases, crime will follow. And that's exactly correct for sexual crime. Sexual crime is the result of disinhibition and opportunity. And the internet, as it stands, is an environment that is absolutely full of disinhibition and absolutely full of opportunity. And Safer Internet Days, in one respect, are a way of heightening the means by which we can increase impediments, protections, and preventions, and also increase inhibitions in offenders and in potential offenders so that they become anxious that they will be caught if they engage in certain abuses. The shift of pornography consumption, by which I mean legal pornography consumption, was astonishing at the turn of the 1990s to 2000s because of the internet. And what the internet did was provide endless access to material because it was there and it could be found and it was cheap and it was free. And therefore, the scarcity and the expense of the material no longer existed. So that provided a spur for an enormous growth in mainstream pornographic material. And it was affordable, it was free to download, free to view, free to exchange. And also, I think the most important issue is around anonymity. And when people feel that they are anonymous, they do bad things. People are often inhibited by the knowledge that someone can see them or someone can know what they're doing. But you've removed that anonymity, the prospect of crime increases. That was true for pornography, but it's increasingly true for child sexual abuse material, which in truth has some of the same psychological drives. Now, clearly, disseminating, viewing, sharing, and producing child abuse material is a way of traumatizing children. It's a way of preventing disclosure. It's a way of kind of taking control of children too. There will never be enough victims of child sexual abuse material. We will not reach a point at which the online community of viewers says, that's enough. We have enough material now. That will never happen because there are psychological drives that force people or encourage people to view more and more material with more and more variety, and they never get to the end of their desire. So we'll always need more material, and that will always need more victims. What we're appreciating now in the UK and in other countries too is that children and adolescents' sexuality are being shifted and changed and molded by the availability both of pornography online and the availability of child sexual abuse material. In the UK, in my county, last month, 1/3 of the arrests in my county for possession of child sexual abuse material were children, boys under 18, looking for, downloading, sharing child abuse material. It used to be an adult's crime. It's increasingly becoming a crime perpetrated by children on children, as well as by adults upon children. And there's also this notion of ideology. I will talk about ideology 2 or 3 times. Interpol 2000, I think, offered this definition of what CSAM is. Why don't we call it child pornography? We don't call it child pornography because it's abusive material, and it does 2 things. It depicts, it shows the sexual abuse of children. It shows children being sexually abused. It also promotes the sexual abuse of children and the idea that children are available for sexual interest and for relief and for entertainment. And that's never changed. It's just become worse in many respects. Now, when I work with offenders, I work with offenders for many years, they have an ideology. They don't behave randomly. They think about what they do, and they have a rather elaborate and coherent ideology that allows them and encourages them to sexually abuse. And there are 5 components of that. One is that they see children as being sexual, that children are capable of sex and children are capable of doing sex. And at some extremes, they believe that children are capable of giving consent. There are online forums where this is discussed absolutely explicitly. Secondly, they believe that they're entitled to sex, that they're entitled to sexual entertainment, they're entitled to gratification. Thirdly, many of these individuals are anxious about the world. They're anxious about women. They fear adult men in the sexual realm, and they see children as desirable because children are not threatening to them, and that's part of their driver. They also think they can't help themselves. They just think sex just happens and it's uncontrollable and there's nothing they can do about their desires. And finally, they deny harm. They say if they're not committing violence against a child, that's not harmful. Or if a child says yes after they've been groomed, then that's not harmful too. Now, when we think about child sexual abuse material and what it is that offenders are looking at, we need to understand how it affects their mentality through this lens. These are called schema. They will see children online behaving sexually. They will not be interested in the fact that those children have been groomed or that there's extortion at the heart of the production of that material. They will just see the picture and find it desirable and arousing. They'll feel entitled because when they're bored or when they're sad or when they're unhappy, they will view child abuse material as a means of cheering themselves up. And it's always available to them, and the children in the picture can never say no because their image has been captured. They'll also feel safer in the online environment, safer than in the real world, so to speak. It's easier to groom children in the online environment than it is in the real world. There are far more opportunities to engage children without parental supervision in the online environment than in the real world. And they'll feel that their behavior is out of control. They'll feel that their desires are out of control and that they have an addiction to pornography, an addiction to child abuse material. And they will deny harm. They will just say, well, the children in the pictures are smiling, or they will minimize the amount of harm. They'll say, well, I didn't abuse that child, somebody else did. I'm just looking at the pictures. It's only pictures, and I didn't cause this harm. So these ideologies are promoted by the imagery. Now, I haven't gone mad yet. I just want to talk to you about a motor vehicle called the Chevrolet Corvair, which is relevant. In 1960, the Americans invented this motor vehicle. The engine was in the back. It came with a manual that was in the glove box, which told the driver that they had to adjust the tire pressures to a very specific reading. I won't ask you, but I would predict very, very few people in the room will know what the tire pressures of their car are. In 1960, many Americans bought the Chevrolet Corvair, did not read the manual, drove the car, and it crashed. And there were many crashes and many deaths of people driving the Chevrolet Corvair. And General Motors became very anxious that it was being represented as a motor vehicle company that produced dangerous cars. What Chevrolet said was, did you read the manual? When you bought the car, did you read the manual before you drove it? And the drivers who had crashed, those that weren't dead, said, no, I just drove it because cars are exciting, because I wanted to go to the shops, because the Chevrolet is a great vehicle, and so on. And for years, General Motors fought campaigners, primarily a fellow called Ralph Nader, who wrote a book called Unsafe at Any Speed. And Ralph Nader was the father of consumer rights, because Ralph Nader said, if motor companies are going to produce cars, they need to make sure that they're safe and that they're safe to drive. Now, in the 1960s, 1970s, and 1980s, because I was there, car manufacturers used to describe how fast their car would go, how exciting it was, and how sexy it was, essentially, and that would be the main selling point. They would say, safe driving is in the hands of the driver. If people drive our vehicle recklessly or stupidly, or when they're drunk, that's not our problem. People should drive carefully. Now, eventually, the selling point of motor vehicles became safety, and manufacturers like Volvo led the way in putting seatbelts in cars and crumple zones and petrol tanks that didn't explode when the car crashed, and so forth. And they made safety a selling point. In the 1960s and 70s, motor manufacturers used to resist interventions, advices, complaints about the nature of their product. Later on, they made the safety of their product and its reliability its prevailing feature. There are extraordinary parallels between the 1960s and 70s motor manufacturers and the state of the internet industry in the 90s, 2000s, and 20 years on. Most producers of applications or systems say, we have produced this application, please read the terms and conditions. They're only 900 pages long. Tick the box here. It's all good. Away you go. Have fun with our application. Most people don't tick the box after having read the terms and conditions. They just tick the box and get out there, because the internet is exciting and the internet is glamorous. And when we think about children's relationship with the internet, it is the place to be. And children's fear of missing out on some excitement and missing out on being online and so on is extraordinarily powerful. Now, I used to run internet safety lessons for parents. And they would say, oh, my daughter or my son's having a terrible time on Facebook. And I would say, well, how old is your son? And they would say, he's 6. I said, well, he's supposed to be 13. And they would say, you know, that's what they would say. Well, what can you do? He wanted to go on a lot, so I let him. Now we've got to this position where there seems to be anarchy in the online world in lots of respects. And I think one of the problems is a cultural one. And it's this, that people who design the systems are very technologically aware and culturally aware of the internet, how it works, how to behave safely, what safety looks like. They are kind of utopian. They think the internet world is a wonderful world. The problem is, I've met thousands of men who are dystopians, who take advantage of the internet in such ways as to put children at risk. And people in the middle, many parents, essentially, and many children are simply not aware. They just don't have the time or the inclination, or they're not directed sufficiently to behave sensibly or to understand the risk that they're taking. In short, they don't read the manual. They don't read the terms and conditions. And there needs to be an imposition, I think, from outside of regulation and expectation, just like there was in the 60s and 70s about motor vehicles, which has over time cut the deaths per million miles by an absolutely substantial amount. Regulation can work and it can be adopted if people can see the sense in it. And I've got a little ticker here that's saying 4, 3, 2, 1, and which I get to that point. Do email me any questions, ask Google. It's a very good search engine. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Michael. E agora com a palavra,
And
assim,
now we are going to have Stella Aranha. Stella, can you hear us? Stella is remotely with us. Secretary of Digital Rights from the Ministry of Justice. Stella, you have the floor. Hello, good afternoon, everyone. I am organizing myself. First, I would like to thank for this wonderful event organized by Safernet, NIC.br, CGI for many years, and this is particularly good. And we've talked about that before. All the efforts depend on partnerships for us to effectively fight child abuse, and that's why this event is so important. It brings stakeholders together for us to discuss internet safe issues, and here I would like to praise Safernet and the work of Tiago that is really recognized in the area as a work of excellence, and also the public prosecutors' offices and the companies, and because the engagement of the private sector is so important for us to address these issues. So I'm going to talk about something we recently created in the Ministry of Justice, which is a digital department. We are just structuring ourselves, but the work is based on an initiative that was developed in the Ministry of Justice. And the idea is to bring to the public sector in an organized manner an institutional department to address this issue. And I would like to talk a bit about that. Everybody talks about children and adolescents being the priority, but having specific projects directed to children and adolescents in public safety, when you talk about justice, when you talk about services to the population, it's not that easy. We have very few. One of the central issues that were addressed today is the absence of funds, and this is something that we also feel. We have an absence of funds and structure to address this product. So this is one of the main points of our work, that is to be able to structure things. And talking about that, I'm going to talk about two things that I think are important for us to address and to talk a bit about the actions we are developing. I'm going to ask someone just to time me, uh, uh, just for me not to lose track of time. Well, people before me have talked before, and we cannot leave the parents as solely responsible for the life of children and adolescents online. This is not their sole responsibility, but we have to have them participating in the lives of their children, in the online or virtual lives of their children. Again, they are not solely responsible. They have to share the responsibility with the public sector and the private sector as well, the services that are offered to the population, that we have to offer a safe service, but we have to make parents aware that they have to be part of the problem. In general, parents take care of their children, and of course, there are several social and economic variations, but even in very well-structured families, when we follow some of the cases that we have, either when you are focused on victims or perpetrators, you see parents not being aware of what is going on. You will rarely leave, a child on, an empty street at night, but you do that online. So we have to make parents aware that they have to be part of the lives of their children on the web. So we have some things there. We have parental control, we have good tools, others have to be improved. there is this whole discussion about age limits. Remember that as of the 13 years of age, parental control, you need also the consent of the child for parents to install parental control, and perhaps they are too young to do that. And there is also, a gap in legislation. We don't really have uh, many tools really to fight the platforms. So we don't have our own legislation. We don't have, I don't know, a mandatory report on that in Brazil. Companies that work in the American market do have to produce a report to the federal government. But companies that are not in American market do not have a mandatory report. And this is a problem. How do you structure that? We have the Safernet as a report page. Interpol has a database about this kind of content, but we don't have anything similar to what NSMAC represents in the United States. Even because, a limitation of funds, they focus on what is inside the United States. We work a lot with them. The federal police does as well. But anyway, companies that are not based in the US market do not have to provide this report. So this is one of the key issues that we have to discuss. We have to have legislation, and we have also to focus on perpetrators. Sometimes you remove material from the web, postages, but you really do not have access to who the perpetrator is. So having something in terms of legislation would be very important for proactive measures on the part of companies, but also for accountability. We have a whole discussion in the legal legislative area about the responsibility of companies, of care, and of safety. This is also something that you also have in American legislation about these topics. Today, in the Consumer Defense Code, we have something in Brazil, but also the duty to take care of these children is something that starts to appear in the regulation of social media. In both bills, 2630, but also in the new code for children and adolescents. So the need for companies to take reasonable measures in the offer of products to prevent and mitigate crimes. I'm talking about child abuse, but other crimes as well. Physical violence, bullying. There are many, many cases of extortion of children for this kind of materials, cases that were well known and highly covered by the media. So several cases, drug related. So there are very, very important connected issues there. And also the system of repression and the society to understand that sexual abuse is a severe harm to the child. You know, we are fighting, this crime. Companies say that they are doing whatever possible, but numbers just continue to grow. Tiago showed, the number of reports increasing in Brazil. So the severity of the crime. Sometimes our culture does not understand the severity of harm, and, it is a crime, but also it is a failure of society of recognizing this as a crime and having children as both victims and perpetrators. So new technologies are coming up, extended reality, and these are things that really have to be encompassed by our law. when you're talking about child abuse, this is something that is in the legislation. But if you produce materials with a child, there is a discussion whether this is a crime or not. But this is a crime against childhood. This is a system that retrofeeds itself. You naturalize a kind of practice and you make it possible for it to happen. So you in a way make the crime possible. So we believe that materials should be criminalized even if they are produced by artificial intelligence. Another topic that is very important is focus on the victims. We have several initiatives that are being developed together with NODC, which is the UN Office on Crimes and Drugs. And we have worked last year with them. We'll continue this year with a larger product. NODC had a call to action with more than 70 countries last year, highlighting some calls for action on the part of government, network providers, access providers, and other stakeholders to fight child abuse online. And we are seeing how we can work with them. And there are lots of issues that we have to still move forward. So with the sharing of information, because we're talking about a global crime, amongst other things. How can we work with technology? In Brazil, we have tech solutions that can help us, but we can help other countries using our technology. So the sharing of knowledge is very important because, again, funds are scarce. And so governments have to work together. We have a very uneven world, but I think that we have to help one another. And we have to count on tech companies bringing more robust safety measures. We know that the scenario is very challenging. You have a twofold problem. We have the real content of child abuse, and we have all this extended reality, which is still in the gray zone. So all this is very important. And talking about our initiative, we are working with the NODC. We want to have an event in Brazil, Latin America, and the Caribbean to identify gaps and flaws that we have. Again, this is a common problem that has to be addressed, and also working together with the UN framework for the protection against childhood violence. So the need to focus on victims, thinking of the child needs, active hearing, gender-related harm, and also having our own policy to protect children and adolescents online. Investments, resources, structure, and personnel on the part of the state that is very important and very necessary.
Obrigada, Estela, pelas suas considerações. Eu gostaria de
Thanks,
convidar.
Stella, for your comments. I'm going to invite Luisa, who is also with us remotely. Luisa Teixeira from UNICEF Brazil. Good morning. Can you hear me all right? Good morning, everyone. Would like to thank all the panelists. Luisa, can you hear us well, Luisa? If you can speak slightly closer to the mic because we cannot hear you well. How about now? Perfect. Okay, I'll have to hold it, but it's okay. So good morning, everyone. I'd like to thank Tiago Tavares for the invite to be part of this important event that gathers people that has a shared responsibility of making the internet a safer place. I'm speaking on behalf of UNICEF. We have operations in more than 190 countries, and the area in the protection against violences of UNICEF has worked a lot with sexual violence against children and adolescents, both online and offline. We know violence against children and adolescents is multifaceted, connected to several socioeconomic and cultural factors. And they happen in any geography, in any socioeconomic class, and with children of any age, children and adolescents of any age, and sometimes coming from those that are closer to these children and adolescents and their families. And this violence provokes severe harm and affects the quality of life of these children and adolescents. It has been said before, the internet can bring several opportunities for children and adolescents to enjoy their rights, but also it brings risks to this population. Talking about protection of children and adolescents against violence, at UNICEF we work with three pillars. First, giving visibility to the topic of violence by the production of content, discussions, and events holding different stakeholders, also offering technical specialized support at local and international level, and also enhancing public services through capacity building and also the sharing of information. We know that when used right and when accessed by all, which is also a very important topic, the internet can promote education, creativity, and really expand our horizons. But we have to take into consideration several risks. And when I say we, I talk about the public, private sector, and also civil society, parents, their families, and children and adolescents themselves. Risks related to child and adolescent abuse are very alarming, and they have very deleterious effects. And the advances of technology have, in fact, made it easier for perpetrators to contact victims and share images of violence and encourage others also to engage in violence. Ian and Tiago shared so many examples of that. And we also have to take into consideration, and that has also been said before, that expanded reality is increasing, which really demands an immediate discussion for us to understand the risk of internet and help families protect their children. And we have been working then to try and give access to technology and at the same time engage our efforts for the internet to be a safer place for children and adolescents to be able to express themselves without being exposed to risks. So we partner with government authorities to make the internet safer, but also with tech companies to provide the tools to make safer platforms. We have also been working with ministries of education of several countries to work on the education of the internet and also technical assistance to fight violence on the web with a partnership with several countries in the world and together with the Global Alliance We Protect. The idea is to strengthen our protection network to keep children and adolescents free from risk and enabled to access the internet. And generating evidence has been a key part of our work. By means of our survey office, we have been producing content on digital rights, opportunities, and risks to promote a better understanding of how the use of digital technology can contribute to the lives of children and adolescents. At the same time, it can expose them to new risks. So, in partnership with UKIT Online Network and other players we protect, UNICEF developed an initiative which is an international research process that generate information to boost the discussion on children in the digital area.
The project has a toolkit where several stakeholders may develop trustful national surveys with a main focus on children, adolescent, parents, and caregivers. UNICEF, together with the Interpol and funds by the Global Partnership Against Violence, has designed the project HARM mentioned here by Natalie, which aims to drive how can digital technology may help us in that sense. Therefore, a survey methodology has been designed to identify priority areas for organizations that advocate for these players. And after this first phase, where Africa and the South Asian countries have been included, as well as Brazil on a second phase, and UNICEF allows technical support to apply this methodology to identify key stakeholders that will participate at those interviews, which are part of the research project, and also together to the federal government that will help us with their main recommendations by 2025. We are also implementing a strategy to raise awareness towards the youngsters community, not just against online violence, but any sort of violence. And an example of that is Internet Sem Vacilo, which is a project in partnership with Google and some other institutions to help children and adolescents to better navigate on a virtual environment. So we addressed online privacy, prejudice, intolerance, relationship, cyberbullying. In addition, the project had a page with frequently asked question about cyberbullying, prevention, liability, online tools, you name it. We have also released a project called Caretas that was a partnership with the Shepherds and Tonic, Facebook and Internet, and they created a storytelling science fiction character who would interact to young adolescents via a web chat, sharing their experiences with sexing and discussing the risks for the leakage of personal photos, personal private images. So that was a science fiction storytelling where the character had his or her identity preserved. Mainly the female population was reached, and that same project was replicated at some other continents. Safernet is a great UNICEF partner, and together we created Network Girls. We allow support towards different sort of violence, including online violence. How to identify them? How about Brazilian legislations? How can we engage family members, schools, public policies, and also a manual with 5 steps how to emphasize protection carriers and also frequently asked questions about perpetrators, offenders, and so on. We also have a leaflet about the use of internet by adolescents. With this platform, we may reach
para promover a sua segurança digital. E, para além desse esforço, né, de mobilização e sensibilização dos
In addition to that effort, we are revising our national plan, where we have a main focus on our main focus is on gender in violence. So thanks to this partnership with the Ministry of Human Rights, we offer technical support to guarantee rights, offering capacity building. We work with the law protected hearing, which approaches violence from an overall perspective, but we have also revised the basic hub, which is part of SIP, which is the system of case registered by the tutelar committee. We have inserted this topic of sexual violence to reflect the current legislations and also, including the guardianship about this new version of the basic Brazil hub. Well, we're trying to be very brief. I know that my time for the session is up. But anyway, we have to acknowledge that we still have lots of challenges in protecting boys and girls. The right warrant system is weak. We lack of concrete data about violence and lack of knowledge, especially by family, children, and adolescents, about the danger behind the internet. So we have to follow a multi-stakeholder comprehensive approach, take into account vulnerability risk factors. We have to think about more effective strategies to strengthen the system, which will guarantee the impact on a middle to long run, as well as sustainability of the interventions. And also think about policies and legislations that will take into account trustful and data throughout analysis and update of the systems that we have available to register of violence. I thank you for the opportunity to participate at this event, and I reinforce UNICEF's commitment to work together to defeat online sexual violence.
Muito obrigada, Luísa, pelas suas
Thank you, Luisa, for your contribution. Now I will give the floor back to Tiago.
Bem, diante do adiantado, a gente está muito atrasado.
Well, we are running very late in relation to our initial agenda anyhow. We have 5 questions. Good news though, 3 of those questions, they will be better addressed in the afternoon session, as we have a question addressed to TikTok, and then we are going to have Fernando Galo once again, who is TikTok director, who will have enough time to answer that. Then we have another question about data to Dr. Priscilla. She's not available right now. So this question will be submitted to her and she can answer that later on. And there are some other questions that they have to do with the afternoon sessions. But there is one question that is very relevant about children with special needs. How about including special needs kids? And tomorrow we are going to talk about that, excessive use of screens by, over screen use by children and adolescents. Maybe if our speakers could, make your final remarks. You have 1 minute each for your final conclusions and remarks. Thank you.
So it's been fascinating listening to all the work that's underway, and it was very heartening to hear from Secretary Aranya about the importance that of a shared response, that it's not just down to parents or children, and that I find really encouraging. I'd just like to pick up the point about children with disabilities that was raised in the question. So we have an assessment on our website looking at this specific question, and we understand that those children are at higher risk. They're more likely to socialize and engage online, which can be a real source of freedom and opportunity for them. But depending on the disability, some of those children may not be aware that they are in an abusive situation. There's a high risk of manipulation and grooming, and I think there needs to be a really tailored response in terms of the needs of the children. So thinking about autism, there are particular needs there that need to be taken into account. Or if it's a physical disability. So I think we need to factor this into our response, and we need to be very aware that this is a higher vulnerability and a higher risk. Thank you.
Muito obrigada, eu achei maravilhoso todas as sinergias.
Thank you so much. I loved all the synergy and all these different aspects that were raised here by our speakers. I just would like to highlight the inclusion aspect as part of the dialogue. Inclusion has been mentioned here at different talks, but I cannot stress that enough. We have to apply that in real terms, not just having people together in the same room, but to facilitate an environment that will be a friendly one, allowing a discussion, sharing knowledge and information. And if there is no alignment, for instance, and for example, we are developing a community that will address data and evidences driven by our ecosystem, and to bring it together everyone who is working in this endeavor of different initiatives, and how can we expand our community as being representatives of different disciplines, communities, in a organized manner. As we all know, interventions, solutions, approaches, and models, they are all part of different contexts, such as cultural contexts, language barriers. Not all players are well disseminated, so we have to stick to our goals, and we are always very open to, expand our community and to understand what we are running short of, and to be able to understand what other communities are seeking for. So, in my opinion, we have to keep on including diversity in our discussion.
Okay, I would just ask a question, really. If you were a man in Brazil and you were concerned about the things you were doing online and the thoughts you had about children online or in the community, where would you go? And if you were the wife of that man and you were concerned about his behavior online, where would you go? And if you were the parent of children, a child, and you were concerned about that child's sexual behavior towards his sister or his siblings, where would you go? We have to provide services for people who get into trouble online. There are so many people viewing, so many men, to be honest, viewing child abuse material. No matter how many police officers you have, you can never find them all and you can never arrest them all. So we have to do something to provide some of those individuals with a route out and a route to treatment. And that we have to make moral compromises about that. That has to be anonymous and it has to be confidential. Otherwise, people won't do it. So it's an enormous challenge. But in the UK, we've run a helpline for 21 years that's done exactly that. And if anyone here is interested in how you do that, just come and talk to me because it's already been done and you can just copy it. That's it.
Stella? As considerações finais.
Your final remarks, Stella, please. I would like to thank you so much, the event organizers. What a comprehensive agenda. I know that we have, a lot to learn, and everyone that has to respect our constitution, and it's our role to protect our children, adolescents, and it's up to civil society, companies, parents. We have to advance a great deal yet. Online environment to our children, it's not yet fully safe. So it's important to hear everyone's voice. And if we work closely and jointly, that is going to be great. There is no silver bullet for that. There are several initiatives, but we have to prioritize protection to children and adolescents. Everyone says that they are protecting, but not quite. Let's be honest. We have some specific projects, but we still have to mobilize more people, more resources, investments, so things can really get into track. Well, my final words. So let's keep moving. Thank you. Thank you, Stella. Luisa, your final remarks. Thank you. Her audio is really, really low. I apologize. Yes, unfortunately, her audio is awful. Yeah, a little bit better.
Eu acho que ponto que a gente precisa seguir insistindo na ampliação desse debate.
We have to expand this discussion as much as possible, and we have to keep that at everyone's radar, not just nationally, but also internationally. a virtual and remote environment is not fully into the decision makers and all stakeholders radar. So we have to insist on that. We have to raise awareness as much as possible. And besides that, I see that together we should think about some possible behavioral, about some strategies that can help behavioral changes where adolescents may follow safe behaviors that can be adopted by the general society, which unfortunately is not quite the case. So together, let's try to keep talking and discussing about some more concrete strategies that can leverage some behavioral changes. Thank you. So a big round of applause to Natalie, Michael, Stella, Luisa, Jan, and Tiago for our mediator. Thank you so much to each and every one of you for accepting our invitation. And now we have a very important and special time. We do know that the future is framed by education. And our next panel will address digital citizenship in basic CVs, basic curriculums. Thank you.
Então, dando continuidade no nosso evento com esse painel Cidadania Digital nos currículos de educação
So,
básica.
digital citizenship in basic education disciplines. I guess this is the right time to enforce and emphasize the transformational power that we can deploy throughout digital technologies. And by the end of the session, we are going to have a very special ceremony where we are going to award the winner for Digital Citizenship 2023. So don't refrain from typing our social hashtags. So you'll be leveraging online global mobilization. Hashtag SID, SID 2024 and hashtag Dia da Internet Segura. And to start the second panel, we have Sarah Clegg. She's a Vice General Counsel for the UK Embassy in the state of São Paulo. We have remotely Ana Ungari Dal Fabro. She's a General Coordinator for Technology and Innovation.
Ana está aqui conosco virtualmente. E inovação na educação básica do Ministério da
And
Educação.
Innovation in Basic Education by the Ministry of Education, the so-called MEC, MEC. And Letícia Hungria, she's our next speaker. She is a representative of the UK Embassy in Brasília, federal capital. And to join those lovely ladies, our moderator, Mr. Alves. He is project manager for Safernet Brasil, and he's gonna be our mediator, followed by the award. You have the floor, Guilherme. Thank you, Natalia. Thank you, everyone. This is it's a very special time. I understand we are running a little bit late, so let's go straight to our speaker, Anna, from the representative from our Ministry of Education. Hi, everyone. Good morning. First, I'd like to thank Safernet for the invitation and the UK Embassy. I'm so glad to see such a beautiful initiative and to address such a relevant topic. that is key to the society as a whole and mainly to the education.
I'm going to share my presentation. Can I share it from here, anyone?
Desculpa, só minuto. Aqui. Pronto.
Okay, I got it.
Bom, gente, eu queria comentar pouco
Okay,
sobre
I'd like to talk about the MEC perspective, how digital censorship has been worked with in the ministry. And I'd like to start telling you about the launch of a program called Connected Schools. It was launched in the end of last year with the objective of educating our students for digital citizenship. So educating with the use of technology, thinking of digital inclusion, and Connected Schools has an integrated view on all the different dimensions we have to consider when we indeed ensure education and digital citizenship. So we are talking about the quality of connectivity, access in general to infrastructure that enables the use of technology and the development of new technology connected skills. Also, digital resources, school management so that the schools are more efficient. And the two areas I'd like to focus on, which are demands related to the curriculum of schools and the training of teachers for us to be able to enable this new view on technology and digital citizenship. So for me to start, I'd like to talk about the normative references we have today about digital citizenship in curriculums of basic education in Brazil. So in last year, we have our new national policy for digital education, not only talking about schools, but also digital education, capacity building. And in digital education, it talks about digital education as part of the curriculum of fundamental, basic, and high school education, and talks about things that should be approached in schools. So it talks about problem solving. It talks about developing with students a better understanding of the digital world, work on topics related to digital culture. And here in digital culture, we include important discussions on digital citizenship and also digital rights and assistive technology. So this was a law that was passed last year that already brings very important components for what we need in the classrooms of our schools. In addition to that, the national curriculum base has approved General Competency 5, which is digital culture, which basically is described as the understanding, use, and creating of digital technologies of information and communication, thinking of using technology in a critical, significant, and ethical manner, and embracing all social practices, and also communicating, assessing, and disseminating information that is produced in the digital media. So in general competency number 5, we already have a definition of this digital culture at every step of the process. In addition to this specific competency on digital culture, we have other competencies like empathy and cooperation, self-knowledge and self-care, and also responsibility and citizenship. citizenship, I'm sorry. These are also competencies that are connected to digital citizenship. So we have specificities of citizenship in a digital world, but we also have all these connections with responsibility and citizenship in a broader way. So we see that these general competencies, together with general competency number 5, all approach the topic of the national curriculum base. And when we see the implementation of the space in our country, you see that these competencies are the ones in which schools have the most difficulty to implement. This is a survey by Reúna Institute that talks about the perception of schools of difficulty to implement these competencies in the classrooms. And that just tells us how important it is for us to discuss even further these issues and understand how we can better implement these competencies. In addition, after the enactment of the common curriculum base, in 2022, we had the approval of a complement to the base that talks about basic education computing. So here we have this focus on 3 topics, digital culture, digital growth, and computing thinking. So we have very specific skills related to the topic that are already included in the national curriculum base that have already been approved and have to get to schools. So how are we in terms of implementation of digital citizenship in our curriculum? Last year, there was this research by Undima, together with Viva, GED, and CIED, and it seems that most municipal schools work on the topic of digital citizenship, technology, and computing throughout their curriculum. So this is authorized, they can do that. We are going to talk more specifically about later on, but it is very important for us to understand how this is being implemented in the curriculum and if it is indeed ensuring all the rights we referred to on previous slides. I think one point that is quite relevant for us to mention, and this is data from ATIC Education, that looked into how the responsible use of the internet is being worked in our schools. And it seems that the topics are already in schools, they are being discussed. Educational coordinators say that school curriculums are talking about activities on the topics, but we still have a huge difference between municipal and state schools. In municipal schools, the topic's a lot less present in state schools. So this is a point that is important. And in state schools, they are less frequent than private schools. Not all the topics, but we do see this difference between municipal, state, and private levels. So it's very important that this curriculum is really integrated to our municipal-based network. And how about teacher training for the implementation of digital education? We're talking about very new topics related to several areas. So today, we still have a demand to support our teachers to use technology as a teaching tool, but also to bring the topics for classroom discussion. So technology is a teaching tool, but it's also a subject of knowledge. So there are many changes that have to be brought to teachers. And here, this slide describes what we consider are the basic blocks of knowledge that we have to bring closer to teachers within teacher training. So our teachers overall already use technology in both their professional and personal lives. But I think that discussing teaching practices mediated by technology is very important. So how to use technology as a tool of education to improve the experience of learning, to have more customized experiences, to engage more their students. And it's also very important to try and understand that discussing digital citizenship and promoting the safe use of technology is important for all teachers, regardless of their specialties within schools. So we believe that this is a skill that encompasses all teachers. That is, not only teachers that will specifically work on the topic, but with every and each one of them. It's important that technology is there to support teachers so that they can collaborate in digital environments and really they can also develop themselves. So when we take a look at the reality of especially municipal schools, we see that 39% of municipal networks do not have continued education on digital technology. So still a huge portion of our teachers do not have access to training on the topic, which is so important for us to be able not only to advance in the use of technology as a teaching tool, but also to address topics like digital citizenship. Well, for the purposes of time, I'm going to move faster on the slide, but we have this self-assessment by CIAB on digital competencies. There are many teachers that are still getting familiarized with technology. That is, they use it, they use technology, but not really in a transformative way. And here, to start to close, what are the key messages that we would like to bring to discussion? Regardless of how you're going to work the topic in your curriculum, if you're going to work specifically on it, or if you're going to work it throughout all the subjects, you have to have the topic inside the curriculum. Teachers have to be working at all stages of teaching with technology. So technology has to be consistently in schools, and it has to be discussed not only in high school, in elementary school, but throughout the teaching process from the early age years to late years. It is important that bringing these topics to the curriculum implicates continued education to teachers. Any implementation strategy has to walk hand in hand with teacher training. And just for you to know, in the first half of 24, we are going to have a cycle of seminars with the MNC, with the school networks to discuss the implementation of digital education in curriculum, with special guidance on how to implement digital education, how to design curriculum, how to work with assessment tools, digital resources, teacher training, and etc. We also have, in the first half of the year, new courses on AVAMAC, which is the MAC platform for teacher training. We are going to have new courses now more specific on digital technology and the use of technology in the learning process as a whole. And very soon, we are going to launch the improvements for the MacRed platform. This is the platform today that the MEC has in terms of digital educational resources to be used by teachers in school. So this is the AVAMET link, MacRed. For those teachers that are still not acquainted with them, please join for you to see all the digital contents that are available on the web. I think that's it. I'm sorry I spoke a bit more than I should, but thanks for the invitation, and the MEC is very much engaged on this journey. We really want to have digital education in all our schools. Thank you very much. Thanks, Ana. It's always an honor to hear the efforts made and seeing, the Ministry of Education structuring actions and understanding the problems and difficulties that we should try and help identify. So now, Leticia, you have the floor. We have a presentation for Leticia. If you could please share.
Perfeito, obrigada. Bom, pessoal, muito prazer. Meu nome é Letícia.
Hello, everyone. I'm Leticia. I work in the UK Embassy, more specifically in the Digital Access Program. It's a privilege to be here and participate in this event, not only for the opportunity of networking, but also because in this type of environment, we can identify priorities for our programs. So it is a huge opportunity. And NIC Brazil is a huge partner of ours anyway. Today, I will briefly talk because we have our vice counsel here, so I'm going to be very fast. Oh, this is so interactive. I'm sorry. I'm going to talk about the UK priorities in the digital development agenda. For the UK, digital development is part of an international strategy. Amongst several topics, there are 4 that are our priority. Digital inclusion, which is connectivity, not only in terms of infrastructure, but the development of digital skills that enable the use of technology. We also have digital transformation that talk about digital government, supply chain, and even platforms, digital platforms. And we also have 2 priorities that are directly connected and could not be ignored. Digital responsibility, which is online safety, and digital sustainability, which has to do with innovation, using technology for problem solving. So these are the UK priorities. Oops, sorry. Our program, the Digital Access Program, is global. It is present in 5 countries: Brazil, Indonesia, Kenya, Nigeria, and South Africa. And the program is structured based on 3 pillars. And the 3 pillars are what we know as digital inclusion. The first pillar is connect. And here we try and understand the gaps that prevent digital inclusion and to try to support infrastructure and regulation. This is the connect pillar. The second is cybersecurity. And here you have to remember that new technologies pose new risks. So we try to support local governments to have a more resilient network and also train users to use the internet in a safer way. And then we have the UK Tech Hub, where we promote digital systems and support startups to solve local problems using technology. And our program is organized in a way that projects are smaller, and with that, we can give attention to different communities and audiences, and also cover a larger array of topics. We have just completed the 4th year of our program, and these are the indicators. Almost 2,000 stakeholders engaged in the 5 countries, 2,300 communities, 48 contributions for regulatory reforms, 128 models, and our pride and joy, 7.8 million of people who benefited from some initiative of the program. And here, talking about other initiatives of other countries, we have 3 projects, one in Nigeria, one in Indonesia, and another in Kenya, for the training or capacity building of women and children on digital topics. And this is not only for the inclusion of women to the net, but also employability, which is a very important pillar. We believe that digital skills should be promoted and made available because it is an important tool for the economic inclusion of women in employment. In Brazil, we're very lucky to find several partners and agencies in Brazil willing to work with the UK to develop initiatives. Last year, we renewed 4 MOU, one with the digital department, the other with Anatel. We have also the Department of Information and Safety, and another with the social communication. This memorandum of understanding enables us to establish priorities, prioritary audiences, so that we can have greater impact with the funds that we have available. So these frameworks, as we call them, these agreements, are the way we have been working with Brazil, and we are very proud of that. Now we are working with the MEC on digital citizenship, and Brazil has been a fantastic partner. I don't have much time, but anyway, talking about why I'm here today on this panel, it's to talk about a project with Safernet, an important partner of ours. This event closes the 2nd stage of our process, which is the development of curriculum of digital citizenship for high school. 12 Brazilian states are already part of the process, and I had the pleasure of meeting some of these students. And this is a true example of what was said before here, using platforms, using technology to spread information, but also thinking of the process end to end. Producing content is important, but supporting teachers is so, and seeing, and monitoring this project as well. And we also have other projects in Brazil. I'm going to go very fast there. These are already completed projects. We had one in which we had capacity building in the communities of coconut ladies in Pernambuco, another with quilombolas and indigenous communities, and we have one with the digital department in the production of a digital guide. It is already online. It's like a manual for governments to adopt their platforms for them to be a bit more user-friendly for people with disabilities. And finally, we have this project that I really like with NIC.br for the viability studies of the TVWS spaces. And also talking a bit about Tech Hub, which is the development of digital ecosystems. We have several partnerships in Recife, Belo Horizonte for the capacity building. And that's it. I'd like to thank you very much for the opportunity. It is a privilege to be here, and thank you.
Obrigado, Letícia. Eu acho que é importante ouvir também desses esforços que são feitos por parceiros, né?
Thank you, Leticia. It's very important to hear about all sort of efforts addressed by other countries, other partners. It's great to hear about the different efforts. Thanks for the partnership, and it's great to Safernet to count on you. Next, I have a presentation addressing some practical efforts. And this is a project. This is a partnership with the UK since 2021, together with professors, students, that we have shared with some schools. This is a project that is based on some pillars, and it works as a support to teachers and to the education system. How can we support schools to implement expected actions in their curriculum or other legal frameworks? In partnership with teachers and students, we have a manual to teachers where they may find structured plans to foster that in their schools, such as well-being in the web, respect, empathy, cyberbullying, privacy, safety. So this is the challenge that we have ahead. And this is an offer, what we offer to our schools. This is a manual thought to our teachers or prepared to our teachers. Here we have the curriculum basis to be respected. So disciplines which are part of the curriculum, they may be offered in a qualitative manner. We have active monitoring of the disciplines with a student-centered approach, which is very important in the relationship process between students and teachers. It's important that they also have a prior training, and an online course was designed to teachers in the elementary school and high school. And we have this course also available to all schools, anyone who'd like to benefit and learn a little bit more about technologies, to managers, pedagogical teams, social projects, and also people who are in the organizations, in the right systems. In addition, we have teachers' support available, which is the process of a tutorial process online, on-site meetings. And can we see the project website where we have a new map of the project indicators, where we see everyone who participated, where we want to get with teachers, students, what's going on fine, what is not. This will generate important indicators to understand which way to follow. And we have the ICTs, which are very significant to understand the impact.
Enquanto isso, já convido todo mundo a conhecer o site do projeto, é o cidadaniadigital.org.br. Lá a gente tem
This is our website.
do projeto, o que pode ser implementado. Lembrando que é um projeto totalmente gratuito para as escolas.
And this is a free of charge product to schools and to the learning network.
E aqui, numa seção do site, a gente tem esse mapa de indicadores. Então, em cada estado, a gente consegue ver o número de escolas.
So we can see the number of schools,
Aqui a gente
indicative data.
todos esses muitos dados que a gente colhe no processo para que a gente pudesse ter essa dimensão do país, né? Então,
So we could see a country's dimensions. So we can see several countries participating. So it's important to disseminate that information so more people can learn about that. I hope that you can learn a little bit more about the impact that has created. That is from last year, and we want to keep on going with that with our students. So schools, professors who are watching us, you are all invited us to visit it and maybe take that to your school. Once again, I would like to thank the partnership with the British government, and you are all invited to learn a little bit more about our project. Thank you.
Muito obrigada, Guilherme.
Thank you, Guilherme, for your amazing talk. Sarah, Ana, well, Sarah still needs to talk. Well, now it's the time where everyone is anxious.
E que ao longo de todo o ano a escola seja espaço de acolhimento, de empatia, de transformação.
We hope that school is a place where we can have all the inclusion, engagement in safety and digital citizenship.
Como o Guilherme já deu pequeno spoiler aqui. Resultados do Prêmio Cidadania Digital em Ação 2023.
So let's talk about the awards conducted by Safernet Brasil and the government of the UK and the project of digital citizenship. And we are about to start the ceremony where we are gonna hand in the award, and we are gonna have Sarah, who is the Vice General Counsel for the UK Embassy.
São Paulo do governo do Reino Unido. Por favor, Sarah, eu vou passar a palavra para você.
Sarah, you have the floor.
Por favor.
Bom dia.
Good morning. I am Sarah Clegg. I am the Adjunct General Counsel for the British Embassy in São Paulo. And I would like to thank everyone who is present here today and the panelists, CGI.br, NIC.br, and Safernet to organize the celebration of the Day of Safernet in Brazil. I'm so happy to be here today to honor this award and to participate at this panel, which is very important to the government of the UK, inclusion and digital citizenship. Digital inclusion includes a number of possibilities, and to guarantee an inclusion which is based on safety, that's key to build up a digital space which is great to everyone and positive to everyone. This is a topic of great importance to the UK, ensuring that our children will grow safely into a connected world and to guarantee a safe digital connection. UK has been a long-lasting Brazilian partner for the digital development. Our partnership with Brazil focused to support the country's transition to an economy which is truly digital, safely, inclusively, and sustainable. That means to allow access to internet to all, regardless of their origin, gender, race, sex, or wealth. And that will be an entrance door to the social development of communities throughout the whole country. We are collaborating to the digital Brazilian agenda throughout and thanks to a number of partnerships. In the last years, we have supported the connectivity at over 1,000 Brazilian schools and the construction of communitary networks at remote regions, collaborating to foster the internet access to over 1,000 families at traditional remote areas and families. And we have a number of entrepreneur women in technology, startups in our local regions. We do believe that technology has the transformational power where we may transform lives and we may allow growth in a generation. But we are also aware that we cannot close our eyes about the risk that the network imposes. Our children, they are connected and they are they are being raised online. They have to be supported by a supported network which is prepared to guide and instruct them how to better navigate in the net. Safernet has developed a work of excellence, talking to experts, professors, and students, asking them what their main challenges are once they are in the web, with the main focus of leveraging digital citizenship and a net to teachers and students in Brazil, with a curriculum that can be applied as an elective discipline at the public schools throughout the 13 different states and over 60 cities and municipalities, reaching out over 11,000 students. We are here to celebrate all the projects developed by students and teachers who participated at this digital citizenship project. Such an event is a part of our commitment to share and build up a safe digital environment to our children and adolescents. We'd like to thank all schools, professors, and students who took part at it. And I'm glad to see that all these initiatives, they represent Brazilians' diversities. We are going to award students from Santa Catarina, São Paulo, and Paraíba. Some came from a long way, others are closer. They all, got together in their schools, trying to find a way to impact their schools and to improve their learning trajectory. I would like to thank all schools that had submitted their projects to be awarded. You made a difference, believe me. The success of the project is a reflex of the need to involve the schools communities, students and family members, and what their role is towards new technologies. What are the good and the bad of these technologies? And we As a representative of the British government, we are here to support that agenda in Brazil. We also would like to thank Guilherme Alves, Thiago Tavares, and the whole Safernet Brazilians team for this partnership and this journey that we are building up together and to make this event a reality. Thank you so much.
Muito obrigada, Sara.
Thank you, Sarah. And we have in our audience professors and students. And they are our finalists. I mean, they were the ones to be awarded or to be announced. We have first, second, and third place. But why don't we learn a little bit more about our nominees? Let's watch a video.
Mais um segundinho, questões técnicas e faz parte. Afinal, estamos falando de um evento de tecnologia e às vezes tem essas eventualidades. E aí, vocês estão
We
animados?
are having some few technical issues here. Just, hold on a bit. Are you all having a good time? Are you all anxious to see who the winner is or the winners are? Are you happy? Hope you are.
Vamos conferir.
Meu nome é Thalisson. Hoje eu vim entrevistar o estudante Maxwell e fazer algumas perguntas
My
sobre...
name is Thadson, and we are asking questions about cyberbullying. Our plan was executed successfully. I think our social cultural intervention was important because it brought preventive actions on bullying and cyberbullying. It added a lot to our content. I'm talking about social cultural intervention at school that can continue through a support network and topics on safety on the web to make all students of our school aware of the topic.
A Lei Geral de Proteção de Dados (LGPD) estabelece diretrizes.
LGPD establishes guidelines for the protection of special data.
Os integrantes da nossa equipe eram
The members of our team were young students from high school and naturally very creative people. So the video content, how it was approached, it was very creatively created by the team members. It was excellent teamwork. We got together to be able to produce a good volume of content. So it was overall very nice job. Our project was structured. It was planned and it was very well designed by the teacher together with the students. The objective was to use the material, those podcasts that we produced together with our teacher. And with the project, we can understand both sides, those that, are active and that are receivers and perpetrators of bullying. I think it's very clear that we have several stories of transformation in the world. I know that everybody is very curious about the first, second, and third places. But Guilherme, I would like to turn to you because you have something to say. Yeah, we are here with 3 teams. But selecting these initiatives is very hard. We were part of the committee assessing initiatives, and we have to understand the different contexts. Brazil is a huge country, and schools have completely different contexts. We have 2 schools that were not awarded, but we would like to mention their work, and I'm going to do that before we talk about our winners. The first is Colégio Estadual do Campo Filinto Passos. The team was mentored by teacher Tatiana. It is a school in the inland state of Bahia, and the school engaged parents, non-adolescents, adults, and also young adults taking education were part of the initiative. And it was very nice to hear these people and how these discussions help dialogue inside the family. So an honorable mention to this group and a hand. And the second mention goes to Centro Educa Mais Força Brasileira in São Luís Material, Professor Kátia Lima. It is a group of Black girls that brought, racism and situations they lived on the web and engaged the community to talk about that. So our mention because of the leading role of women in the digital journey. So thank you. They are really worth mentioning. We all, I think, are winners. Well, but anyway, I have 3 envelopes here. I would like to ask Sarah to come here by my side. Sarah, come here to announce the first place, the winner. Let's see who the winner is. Sarah?
Em primeiro lugar,
and the winner is Instituto Federal de Educação da Paraíba, Campus Cajazeira. Congratulations. Sarah, you are going to give the award. Look at the tears from Paraíba, Paraíba. Instituto Federal da Paraíba, Campus Cajazeira. 39 students from 14 to 16 in the first year of high school. First, the winners showing how adolescents can be creative, talking about digital citizenship, their way, using their language, raising the awareness of a whole school community. Are you, João Paulo, the teacher The social cultural intervention, mentored by João Carlos, brought the students to a leading role, creating contents, video, sketches. Please, João, you should step the floor to engage their colleagues. The students are here, represented by the teacher and Maria Eduarda Pinheiro Calista. And now you're going to get the first prize with a huge hand of applause. Congratulations. Sarah is giving the medal to Maria Eduarda for all students. Now the teacher. I hope you continue to inspire. Let's take a picture right in the middle of the stage, because that is going to be a landmark for the School of Paraíba. And let's continue inspiring, transforming, revolutionizing the world. Congratulations, Cajazeiras Campus, Federal Institute of Paraíba. Another hand so that they can go back to their seats. Thank you, João Paulo. This is recognition and gifts and medals. This is so good. Thanks, Sarah. And now, for the second place, the runner-up, Letícia. I would like to have Letícia here with me to open the envelope. And the second place is?
O segundo colocado foi a
Escola Estadual Dona Veredita Freire de Macedo, from Jacaraí, São Paulo. São Paulo.
Que coisa linda!
That's so beautiful. Stay with me, Letícia. This team comprised 6 students between 15 and 16 years old, first year high school, and they created an online magazine to discuss cyberbullying, interviewing specialists, and holding an event with students, family members, and teachers. To receive the award on behalf of the team, we have Ms. Viana da Silva Nascimento and the students Laércio, Henrique, Maxwell Kennedy, Max, Thalisson Rian, and Ian Rafael de Oliveira. Congrats, team. If you can, please take the center of stage for us to take a beautiful picture, because you deserve it. Ricardo, take beautiful pictures, huh? Do your best. Take a picture to really freeze this moment of your history and ours as well. Letícia, Guilherme, Sara, let's join the team from State School Benedita de Macedo from Jacareí, São Paulo. Wonderful. Congrats. Congrats, everyone. Ms. Bianca, for the wonderful work. Let's continue inspiring people. And now, our third place. I'm going to call Ana, that is with us virtually. Ana, are you there? I'm here. Can you hear me? Yes? Everything okay? Sure. Okay. I don't know how I'm going to give you the envelope, but She knows who it is. Receive it telepathically. This is the envelope. So it's a pleasure to say that the third place goes to the Federal Institute of Santa Catarina. Congratulations. Caçador Campus from Santa Catarina, Guilherme is going to deliver the awards. 55 students between 17 and 18 years old from the third year of integrated courses in administration, accounting, and others. They created a series of podcasts and a Mimi mural to talk about the topic with likeness and human. The world would not be a better place without the memes. So Professor Ricardo de Campos and Felipe Manuel Kizerniak are going to receive the prizes. Did I get your name right? Kizerniak. A hand of applause, Mr. Ricardo, Felipe. Sarah, Leticia, join us for the picture. And congratulations for using, humor and the memes. I love the idea of memes. I'm curious about that, to teach people, on the internet. Thank you so much. It was certainly a very special time. Congratulations again to all teams. And we hope these students and teachers set an example for other people to come, other schools to join and work for digital citizenship and inclusion for all. It's a joy to use the internet as a tool of education, culture. I would like so much to thank you all, Guilherme, great moderator. I think we are all hungry. I can feel it in the air. So now we are going to close our panel with the award, and we invite you to come back for the afternoon session at 2:00 sharp, because we have lots of topics to be explored. And please, let's come back a little before 2 so that we can move on with our program. Okay? So have a wonderful lunch, everyone. Congratulations to the awardees and see you later.
Hoje, reunindo especialistas, tanto da área de proteção de